Hey, hang on a second. There
This
we
lady
go.
says good morning too. Oh, am I muted?
Oh no, well, you weren't muted. Then I muted you during the thingy, and
Oh,
then
good.
I unmuted you. So,
No, just keep me muted. It's all right. We just you talk. I'll mime it all day.
okay, that's fine. So anyway, no, we're not gonna do that. That's silly
No.
beans. That's some silly talk. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are in this great world of ours. Hopefully, everybody's having a great day. How are you doing, Jimmy?
Good morning so far. Just woke up, so ready for today. Like we were saying earlier, space day. So I've got my Chewbacca pillow. I'm ready to go.
I got my Star Trek. Wait a minute. This one it's technically Star Trek Online, but still,
Yeah,
it's still Star Trek.
that's right.
Um, what's going on, Dolores? Hello, Joseph. Yes, we are going to be talking about primaries today as well,
Mhm.
uh, among other things. So hopefully this will be a fun time, a good time had by all, and an informative time had by all, because that's basically what we're here for, right?
Yes.
To inform the
Yes.
masses.
Yep.
Um, so I
How's
guess
your
we
weekend
should.
been?
My weekend.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's pretty good. I was yesterday. I was engineering for the combo couch, so most of the weekend was spent like fixing and tweaking graphics and stuff like that. So generally, how that works is like Oz LaFave. He usually does it, but he's trying to kind of get others to help him out with the load. So we have to make the show look like he makes it look, so that we have some continuity.
Hmm.
Um, you know, unlike unlike other you know, like TV shows that like the new version of this that doesn't have continuity. Kirk. I'm a bit of a purist when it comes to that stuff, so
So you're not into the
maybe
new Star Trek that's coming out?
I like it. It's just different, and
Hmm.
I don't
Yeah.
know. I like next generation was great, but I do like this show, Strange New Worlds, that just came out with Captain Pike at the helm of the Enterprise. That's pretty cool. So
Hmm.
far so good.
When is
Um,
Spock
yeah,
getting his own episodes and his own show? He's my favorite. He's so hot.
Spock.
Yes.
Um, I think he's gonna be on an episode of uh, Yo MTV Cribs, and it's they're going to show his Vulcan pad. Apparently, he has a pretty nice Vulcan pad.
That's hot.
So I don't know. They're doing so much stuff with Star Trek. I'm pretty sure everybody at some point is
They
going to
are.
get their own show.
Pretty
They're
sure.
going to try to milk that cow till it's dry. So,
Yeah, like the Marvel
um,
universe.
yeah, there's supposed to
Yeah.
be She-Hulk coming out too. Uh,
Really?
yeah. Well, they didn't make that up. That's an actual like comic book thing, but
Yeah,
we'll
her
see
name
how
is
that
Jennifer.
goes.
Yeah.
Right, and the lady who's playing her was the lead in that show Orphan Black. If nobody's seen that show, it's a really good show. She plays like seven different characters in it, and she's really good.
Okay.
Hello, Amberly. How are you?
Okay.
Oh, Amberly said I'd watch Anson Mount in anything. Anson Mount is in the new Doctor Strange movie too. Um, I can't
I don't
remember
know who
what
that
character he
is.
plays.
That name does not
He's
sound familiar.
I know, right? He looks like somebody that looks familiar, but his name is not familiar. But
Yeah.
he's Captain Pike in Strange New Worlds, but he's also
Okay.
in he plays some sort of minor Marvel character in Doctor Strange 2, The Secret of the Ooze. No, wait, that's not the name of it.
Oh,
Um,
this guy. Okay.
yeah, he's like one of those people that looks like people. Uh,
Yes.
You know how that works. It's like, hey, it's that guy. It looks like that dude, or that
It's
it's that
exactly
lady
what I
who
was
looks
gonna
like that
say. He
looks like
looks like
that
someone
lady.
else. Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
he's in Hell on Wheels too. Amber Lee is pretty much in the president of the Anson Mount fan club. I'm
I can
assuming
see
at this
that.
point.
I don't
So
even know who this guy is, and she's like naming off everything he's been in. Dang, girl. I can see why
he's
though. I mean, he's definitely got that very sexy, chiseled, the salt and pepper hair, just that, you know, very chiseled man look, older man look that a lot of the women like
he's
nowadays.
a hot hunk of handsome. He's a
Yeah, yeah,
hunk of
he's
handsome.
definitely a nice little piece of
Sakura.
meat.
Good morning to you too, Sakura. Hopefully you are having a wonderful day. Um, are
Hi.
Sakura and Eric, are they both West Coast too?
Yeah, they live out here
Uh,
in California.
yeah, I
Sukuru
thought so.
lives in Southern California, and I think Eric lives in Northern California.
Yeah, I think he's around San Francisco, right? Something like
And
that.
Sukuru's down in LA, yeah.
Right on.
hmm
Well, might as well get to the news. You're going to start things off for us there with this talking about the baby formula shortage. We have a few little sidebars to go along with this too. So
Yeah.
let's get to that. Go take it away, lady.
All right. So the start of the story that this whole baby formula shortage, how it all got started was two kids were hospitalized from this baby formula because of the fact that a few months ago the company decided that they got Congress and Senate to pass legislation to deregulate the process of making that baby formula. And in that process of deregulation, as what Kyle Kalinske, I guess, kind of says, it had become a petri dish for bacteria, and this certain bacteria ended up getting into the baby formula, caused a few children to get really sick, and actually a couple of children to die. So that's why they ended up recalling this baby formula, and why part of the reason why we are having a really bad shortage. Um, the children, both whom had specific dietary requirements, were hospitalized. He had a pediatric gastronomy, and let's see, these are young children who have health conditions and special medical needs that have specific dietary requirements. Their bodies did not adapt well to the new formula type, and they required treatment via IV fluids and supplemental nutrition, making multiple substitution throughout a child's care to ensure that the nutritional needs are met. So I'm not sure if this is saying that. I mean, I know that the two kids had a special thing, but I think it was because of the bacteria is the reason why these two had died. You can go to the next one, the next article. So because of that, because of the shortage of the formula and because of the recall, people are actually asking to donate their stuff. The company says that they are opening back up and starting production again. They said that this is the quickest that they can actually get production out and into the hands of people, which is a matter of a couple of weeks. But people, parents can't wait 2 weeks. Humans can't, especially babies, cannot live that long without any food. So women are going around asking for milk donations and taking themselves to the emergency room because they have prepackaged milk for infants that can't breastfeed. Um, let's see. The FDA said Monday that it is streamlining the ability of infant formula makers globally to sell their products in the U.S., waiving certain trade barriers to allow formula intended for foreign markets to be sold here. It also said that it was encouraging domestic distributions, manufactured products intended for exporting to foreign countries. Still, even with those waivers, the FDA acknowledged it could take weeks for the new product to hit stores and shelves. So yeah, that's the problem, is that these children cannot wait that long. There is right now, I think there is a problem with getting it from another country. I think a lot of people are looking to Canada right now for breast milk, because Canada has absolutely no shortage or restrictions or anything like that. So, but they're having a problem with getting it. Like, they can get to the buying part of it, but when they get to the closing out of the sale online, it won't ship to out here in America. So that's where these laws and these things are getting passed, so that people can at least be able to get it easier while this shortage is going on, because literally Canada has no shortage whatsoever. They're not dealing with it. It's only here in America right now. So we're needing imports of it until um, the milk production can start back again. And some of these, and there's like everybody has their own different stories. Everybody has their own every child has their own, some kids can drink breast milk. I heard a story about a child who can't drink, mother wasn't producing breast milk, and the child was allergic to like 5 or 6 different milks that they were giving the child. So they had to specially order organic milk from a whole nother state and had it bring it to them. And now that the shortage is going on, they can't even get, I think they're backed up on a waiting list for a couple of weeks just to get this kind of milk now. And so it's just really, really, really terrifying. As a mother who has had 2 children, who wasn't able to produce breast milk and had to formula feed after weeks of trying, this is absolutely terrifying to know that your child probably, like there's a possibility that your child could probably, starve to death, which now that I think about it, it's kind of really sad. It's kind of like a first world problem, because children in Yemen are literally dying from this every single day right now as we speak, but maybe hopefully people can take this and turn it into an empathetic moment and understand how other people in other countries are actually dealing with this problem. So, I know that the only way that people learn empathy is to experience it themselves. So maybe this will help them realize that, our needs aren't the only ones. Like there's other people out there that are dealing with just as bad too. So yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so they're talking about here donor milk.
Yeah.
Like we were talking about this before the show. I'd never heard of this either, that people were donating their what they call their breast milk or human milk.
Hmm.
As the formula shortage continues to impact these parents and children across the country, there's renewed interest in donor milk, with some considering another option in addition to formula. So there is the Human Milk Banking Association of North America. It said it's seen unprecedented numbers of calls to its member milk banks from people inquiring about donor milk, especially in Texas, Illinois, and California, which makes sense. So that's like 3 of the largest populated states in the country.
Hmm.
And it's an umbrella organization with 28 member milk banks in the U.S. The group comprises a number of community and nonprofit milk banks affiliated with hospitals, including University of California Health Milk Bank. The center had seen an uptick in calls, especially in May, which corresponds with the shortage that's been going on. That orders had risen another 10 to 20% in the past week alone. There are various reasons why a parent or caregiver may consider donor milk. Oftentimes, it's a necessity for premature babies in the neonatal intensive care unit who may be too sick to breastfeed, or whose parents may be sick themselves or otherwise unable to provide breast milk, like you just mentioned earlier. So
Right. And
this
I
is
and I've seen women like, come up to the plate and step up and breastfeed a baby. I've seen incredible things where a woman wasn't even producing milk and just started producing milk for this baby that needed it, that was hungry. I mean, I've seen incredible people do some, women do some incredible things for newborn children to feed it, but actually having a breast milk bank for women who can't produce milk, that's something I've never heard of and is absolutely amazing. And I hope that more women that at least can produce the breast milk come and step up and help out and stuff. I'm definitely going to be getting a hold of, like, my sister right now. My sister's breastfeeding. She's been breastfeeding for a year and a half. And I'm pretty sure within the next 6 months, she's, not going to be breastfeeding anymore. If she's still breastfeeding, I'm absolutely going to ask her if she wants to start donating to that place, because that's amazing. It's very taboo. A lot of people still don't understand that, Like they're like, oh, well, that's not the mom's boob, so the baby shouldn't be on it. Milk is milk. And it has to be normalized now that this is happening. At least, hopefully, people will start realizing that, other women's breast milk is not that bad as long as that baby stays alive. That's all that matters.
Right, and they're encouraging people to if you're considering getting breast milk from a donor like this, to consult their baby's pediatrician or their healthcare provider, uh, because that is a different diet that the child is going to be getting. Um, so it's always good to whenever you're considering like that, any alternative to the normal feeding process for your kids, always check with the doctor first, and or the baby's doctor, to see what they say.
Right.
And this milk is also reserved for premature babies and ICU patients, and what the they are calling the most fragile newborns too. So that's kind of how it works. So it's like for kind of the children at risk, they're prioritizing them first, and then the less kids in less of danger, health danger, that is kind of the pecking order that they're going right now. So and they can ask their doctors, healthcare providers, to see if it may be available through the hospital directly. It maybe not have to go through one of these banks to get it too. So
Right. Look
it's
at that.
scary. Yeah, that's a lot of yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so I mean, it's crazy that we've gotten to this point of having to donate breast milk.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
uh,
you definitely wouldn't think of it being a problem in a first world country for sure.
right, right. I mean, yeah, I know we've had like supply issues during COVID, but it seemed like there was at least from what I understood, there seemed to be ample supplies for the kids as far as like milk it was concerned.
Hmm.
And now you see all this happening, and it's just it's crazy, you know.
Yep. Yep.
Um, yeah, there used to be let's see. So Amber says that trans women can apparently lactate as well. Uh, I'm
Yeah.
I'm sure that they've been donating as well, or if not, they're probably looking into donating as well.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I really
um,
hope so. Like in a perfect world, we would learn from this and then we would start, women that can lactate at least would start producing milk to help Yemen. Like that would be the in a perfect world ultimate goal of this bad case scenario.
right, and like you said, there's no federal regulation for donor breast milk too.
Right.
I think they definitely need to look into this, particularly if this problem is going to be persistent too.
Yep.
We're
Absolutely.
not quite sure how long this is going to last. Because there are safety risks to consider when it comes to donor milk, and parents need to be aware of these risks. Um, some have sought to obtain donor milk through for-profit milk banks and informal channels such as family members and friends, communities, and parenting groups. However, experts say people should be extremely cautious when exploring unregulated options, and have repeatedly warned against it. So,
Well, I mean, like, okay,
uh,
donor milk through for-profit milk banks, maybe I would understand that. But I'm sorry, if I had a baby and my sister had a baby and she's producing milk and we're going through this together right now, my baby's sucking on that teat on my sister for sure. I don't care what anybody says.
yeah, yeah. I mean, as long as it's safe for the kid, you got
Yep.
to do what you got to do, and hopefully, it's not going to be a situation like
Right. You just have to
what
make
was
sure
going
that
on
the
in
person that,
Tennessee.
you just have to make sure that the person that's feeding your baby isn't somebody who does drugs or, drinks all the time, or takes prescription pills. I think that's what they're saying, is that whoever you're using as a donor person, make sure that the breast milk is clean, because yeah, absolutely, whatever you intake in yourself, it's going to go to that milk. Absolutely it will. But I mean,
Yeah.
if you have a family member or somebody that really close, that, what their lifestyle is like, I think you should just use your own, caution and your own intelligence to figure out whether or not you should use them. Absolutely.
Yeah. Definitely. Just be safe out there, especially with the young ones. And like we said, if you worst comes to worst, you're not quite sure what to do, speak to your doctor, your baby's doctor, and see what they suggest. Um, we had elections yesterday, and we should talk about that. But we should
Yeah,
we have a party crasher here.
that's
Joe
right.
Evans wants to come in. Let's bring him in. Well,
Let's go,
what do I
Joe.
mean, party crasher? He is the party.
I am
That's
the party
right.
crash. Yes,
Yeah,
yeah.
that now the party can officially begin. How are you, sir?
I am doing excellent. I'm doing excellent, Uncle Warren. It is a pleasure to participate in this today. Love what you and Jimmy have been talking about this morning. You
Thank
know,
you.
the breast milk issue, it goes on and on. The breast milk banks that you talk about as far as donations go. Yeah, there's no federal regulations, but a lot of these breast milk banks that have come into being, they have a lot of personal stipulations. Some of them are even full on vegan, or I shouldn't say vegan because it's still human milk. It's still but there are dietary restrictions for when you donate. You have to be GMO free or vegan, or there's some other sort of dietary restriction that comes along with this, in order to participate in different breast milk banks around the United States. So some of them, each of them have their own different levels of quality, and some, again, this is one of those things. Some of them will allow mothers who are using marijuana, medical marijuana, to donate. That gives cannabinoids through the breast milk into those children who need it. Others, that's a bridge too far for some of them. So the quality of breast milk that's in these banks has been set without federal regulations, and it's one of those things we should probably consider moving forward.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's change gears and let's talk about elections going on. Yesterday, we had some primaries in a few states.
Yes.
I guess we could talk about this one here with Dr. Oz and a hedge fund manager going for the Republican nomination in Pennsylvania. Is that right?
Yes.
Have you been following this, Joe?
Most of it is Dr. Oz's bid as a Republican, which in a lot of ways comes from a very different perspective. Dr. Oz, for a Republican, coming out in support of red flag laws, is pretty much against the bulk of the Republican platform. But at the same time, his history with alternative medicines makes him more in line with a lot of the current Trump thinking on medical freedom and medical choice than you will see in the Democratic channels, especially with regards to vaccinations and similar issues. So it's definitely interesting to see Dr. Oz doing as well as he has in Pennsylvania, especially after last year's libertarian runs on the what's at-large races for mayors, city councils, and a lot of the smaller races from last year. So it's interesting perspective what's going on with that one.
And who is
Yeah,
Oz running against?
David McCormick. He's a businessman. Oz was actually, he got the Trump bump.
He did.
Yeah, he was actually backed by Trump. going into this. But right now, they're both separated by less than 1 percentage point. So I believe a recount is going to be scheduled for this. And whoever wins that runoff or that recount is going to face the Lieutenant Governor John Fetterman. He won the Democratic nomination for the Senate seat, and this was just days after he had a stroke, and I believe he had a pacemaker put in just recently too. So, so that's going to be one to watch there too, because I believe they are replacing who is it? He's retiring, but he's a Republican senator that's retiring in Pennsylvania. It said his name down here, and I can't remember it off the top of my head. But they said this is probably going to be the best chance for a Democrat to actually win the Senate seat in Pennsylvania since like '74 or something like that. So this is going to be one to take a look at. Also in Pennsylvania, Madison Hawthorne, one and done. Thanks, Madison. We have some nice parting gifts for you. Johnny, tell him what he's won. And so yeah, if you're not familiar who Madison Hawthorne is, oh no, that's in North Carolina. My bad. That was in North Carolina. So he was the GOP congressman there, and he lost his bid. I can't remember who. I think it says down here. This is kind of all over the place here. To Chuck Edwards. So Chuck Edwards is going to be facing the Democrat for that seat. So Cawthorn was the one recently who was making claims that the GOP was having cocaine and orgy parties. Or as we call it around my place, Saturday.
Friday night.
Yeah, Friday night / Saturday morning. Bring your own toga. We're a low budget around here. We blew our money on the cocaine and the orgy people. So you have to bring your own togas.
The irony of that was.
Go ahead.
The irony of that was he comes out and says this, the Republican Party is this, it's not the family values that I was told it was, it's the cocaine orgies, and the things that go on after hours, and then it doesn't even take a week before you got a picture of him doing a performance skit in drag at some event, and it's like, why weren't you just being yourself? Right. But the thing that, honestly, I think the thing that did him in was the most least offensive thing he actually did during his entire stint, and that was get caught in drag after complaining about, cocaine orgies.
Well, that's what's completely unfair about my generation and the younger generation. There is no time in our past that doesn't have a picture of it. And I'm sorry, but that's the number one reason why a lot of us don't run, is because we are absolutely terrified that one of those pictures that we know somewhere out in the ether is going to come back and bite us in the ass. And that, as a generation of pictures, of being stuck in pictures, that should not hold us accountable of whether or not we should run for office. Our past, like what happened with Crystal Ball, like a picture of a dildo in her hand is what ruined it. Or the Katie Hill girl out here in Santa Clarita, where her husband did the revenge porn on her that got her, done out. It's completely unfair. Like, if anything, all those pictures and videos made that Cawthorn kid look cooler. So
to an entire generation. Unfortunately, It wasn't enough to actually get him, over that 1% difference between, whatever the difference was in his.
It just goes to show you that the Democrat and Republican, the status quo elitists are always going to get their way, no matter what, if somebody goes in there and tries to pull the rug out from underneath them. It
Yeah.
sucks. Like, it's not our time yet. Our time will come. Keep fighting. We need more, kids out there in all parties that are like Mr. Cawthorn himself. Don't be afraid to talk about the orgies that are going out there and behind the closed doors of politicians' houses.
Just make sure that you own up to the orgies that you went to before
Yes.
you got into politics.
Absolutely. Yes. Full transparency, everybody.
And that's why we don't allow cameras at my cocaine parties. For that very reason, y'all. So, you got to future-proof it.
That's right.
So in Kentucky, I think the big one, the big race everybody was looking at. Pardon me, I'm just kind of going all over the place here.
Hey, that's mine right there. You just blew past mine. Brad Little, state of Idaho.
Oh, yes, Idaho.
Oh, that's you?
That's me.
Oh, nice. Well, let's go to that first. Yeah.
It's my state. And this was
go.
an interesting
Let's talk about that. So we got the Idaho Governor Brad Little defeated his Trump-endorsed challenger, Lieutenant Governor Janice McGeachin.
McGeehan.
McGeehan, my bad. McGeehan. What do you know about these folks? What do you know about Brad Little?
Brad Little is a rancher here in the state of Idaho. He actually is a sheep rancher. His family's been sheep ranching for decades here in the state of Idaho. He owns a significant amount of land. He's done some shady stuff with land management that has given him prime access to government land that, because of his location and the strictures related to it, he's got prime grazing land free and clear. But a lot of what this campaign came down to was how they handled the last 2 years. So Governor Little, he's a businessman, and he brings his business expertise and his ability to manipulate federal funding, federal dollars. He's a rancher, after all. He's getting all of that agriculture subsidies so he's taken that and he used it as governor in order to secure a significant amount of federal funding for the state of Idaho. And the way he secured that runs against what an awful lot of people in Idaho believe in. That is transparency, individual rights. And so you saw these two aspects that were going head to head, very centrist, business-oriented Republican establishment. He's been sitting in politics for 20 years now, versus an up-and-comer who has her own businesses in North Idaho that she runs. She's very Trump-oriented, very radicalized. One of her statements in very pro-life. Following the leak of the Alito ruling, she actually came out and said she wanted to call an emergency assembly of the state legislature to remove all limitations on the Idaho's trigger law regarding abortion, so that even medical reasons to preserve the mother's life were stripped out, and it was to go into effect immediately rather than 30 days after the Roe versus Wade overturn is published. So it's like, here she was going all the way pro-life during the later stages of this campaign. And a lot of people in the state of Idaho went, no. Brad pulled 58% to Janice McGeehan's 27%. And it just completely rewrote the way that we were looking at going into the general election here in the state of Idaho.
So we got also in Idaho, we also have Senator Mike.
Crapo.
Joe, how do you pronounce his last name?
It's Crapo, or we call it Crapo. And a lot of people are perfectly willing to call him Crapo in certain circles in certain times, but we go with the pronunciation Crapo.
Okay,
so
that, you know what, I had an
embarrassing thing, but Crapo took Idaho again. Establishment politician. He's been sitting, what,
Yeah,
30
he's seeking
years?
his fifth
You know,
term. Yeah, his fifth term there.
his 6 challengers for his seat, none of them broke the 10% barrier. Some significantly lower. He came in above the 50%, so he's got a clear majority. But this is one of those things. He's a businessman. He has sided with businesses, some dangerous businesses. He's part of the agricultural industry base here in the state of Idaho. He has helped with rulings that have supported Simplot and Monsanto as far as agricultural support here in the state of Idaho. When it comes to agriculture in the state of Idaho, Idaho runs on the Monsanto theory of agriculture, which is why we continue to produce with regards to wheat and a lot of other things. But for those of you who follow agriculture, regenerative agriculture versus the green revolution agriculture from the 1970s, that Monsanto has continued to build on, it's not a sustainable model. But it pays the bills for people who work the farms here in the state of Idaho. So he'll continue to see support from that side.
And we'll continue
so
to see GMO foods.
Yes, we will, including GMO potatoes made by Simplot.
Yeah.
So let's shift to Kentucky. It said at least 2 black Democrats are making history after Tuesday's primary elections in Kentucky and in Pennsylvania too. But the big name everybody remembers, I think it was a couple of years ago, Charles Booker was vying for the Democratic nomination, but ended up losing to I can't remember her name. She went on to lose to Rand Paul, but so now he'll take on presumptively he's going to take on Rand Paul this November. So and to me, what I've known about Charles Booker, he sounds like one of these like he kind of in the mold of like an AOC, has a lot of progressive rhetoric when he speaks. There's some issues I have with some of the things that he backs, but that's just a personal thing with me. But to me, it just seems like this is like another version of AOC, but only coming out of Kentucky this time too.
Yeah.
So
Joe, you were running for office. How did you do?
In this actually gets into the complex analysis of what goes on in the state of Idaho. Now, it was interesting because the first time in nearly 20 years, we had primaries in 2 minor parties here in the state of Idaho. So when people showed up as registered libertarians or registered constitutionalists, they were actually presented with a third party ballot in which they could do a vote on. Now, a lot of this was related to 2 gubernatorial challenges, which is interesting. Dr. Ryan Cole, who made himself famous over COVID cures and research from the Trump side of things, was a write-in candidate for the Constitution Party governor. He did not make it, but we were where we had an opportunity for people to walk in and choose Republican, Libertarian, Democrat, or Constitution, or an unaffiliated ballot. We actually had nearly 700 people in the state of Idaho pick up a Libertarian ballot, despite the fact that the Republican ballot has more influence over who's going to be running governance in the state of Idaho. And the only decision on that ballot was the governorship. 2 no-name players that just stepped in this year, no prior history of working in politics, except for maybe at the city level. 700 people stepped in and voted, 500 of them, which happens to be the near entire representation for my district, voted for me. So in a primary, we had 7 libertarians walk in and, vote on a libertarian ballot.
Yeah, and during a non-election year too. That's so
Yeah,
awesome.
during a non-election year, it's crazy, and I'm actually looking forward to what that means in the larger scheme of things, because we have 7 libertarian candidates right now, each one of them challenging what is essentially an incumbent Republican. Um,
Mhm.
it's it's crazy. It's going to be crazy this year, man. It's going to be crazy.
Absolutely, I agree.
So in that other Pennsylvania race, there was the lieutenant governor's seat with State Representative Austin Davis. He won the Democratic nomination, and if he wins in the fall, he would become Pennsylvania's first black lieutenant governor. So a little bit of history there
Oh, cool.
in Kentucky and in Pennsylvania. There were some other races going on too. This is more on Cawthorn. Like I said, this is just kind of all over the place. So Pennsylvania, the governor's race there, Doug Mastriano won the GOP nomination, uh, and
Okay.
he'll face Josh Shapiro, who won the Democratic nomination. Um, there's a lot of talk about Mastriano in January 6th, and uh, there was some controversy there, but nonetheless, he did manage to win the GOP nomination too. So,
Right.
I think that's it for now.
It's an
Any final?
interesting aspect with a lot of the GOP that the Christian nationalism that's starting to spring continues to have a solid hold in several areas of the nation. You know,
Mhm.
coming out of Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, city of brotherly love, to actually see that as a dominating theme for one of their GOP candidates is scary.
Mhm. I mean,
Yeah,
you really only have like 2 choices though. It's either traditional Republican or Trump Republican, so
Yeah.
right. I mean, and think about what's happened over the last couple of years too, and how both parties were kind of complicit in some of the tomfoolery and for lack of a better term, fuck ups that have happened over the last couple of years, right? I mean, there's a lot of people who are really pissed off, and you're seeing more and more people who are becoming disenchanted with both parties. Uh, that's music to my ears, because I'm one of these people. It's like, I don't think there should be any political parties at all, but I don't think I'll ever get my dream come true of just independence running, and where you actually have to present what you believe in, what you don't believe in, rather than hide behind some sort of political label that
Hmm.
pronounces who you are without you even having to uh, explore who this person is that's trying. Because I think that's what we're missing in our representation. We don't know who these people are. They're hiding behind these parties and what these parties believe, but what do the candidates believe? The candidates aren't free to say 100% what they're about, because they have to kowtow to the parties that are backing them, But I don't
No,
know.
not just the
It's
parties, but also their sponsors. You know, you're
Oh
looking
yeah,
at
yeah.
big money behind it. Uh,
And that's who it really is. It's the big
yeah,
money that's controlling the parties, because we all know that both parties are just corporations for the most part.
the
They're
corporate
just,
front men.
right.
they can choose their nominees if they want to. They don't have to have elections. The court said so. So
Yeah.
you know. I mean, you take that as you will, but anyway,
So
you want to stick
on the
around with?
bigger picture of all of these primaries, a question for both of you, since I can get 2 different opinions on this. In the bigger picture of these primaries, what do you see being forecasted for the elections? Do you see more of a Democratic winning? Do you see more of a Republican winning? Or do you see the third party starting to become viable?
You go ahead, Joe.
I think third parties are really going to become viable. I don't know that any of them will actually see enough success to put a Libertarian or Green Party candidate in an executive seat in a state or in the U.S. Congress or U.S. Senate. But people are stepping up and starting to recognize. I see us breaking the 15 and 20% thresholds this year. You know, here in the state of Idaho, we got some other things going on, you know, with regards to the libertarian versus the constitutionalist versus your white Christo nationalists. We're dealing with the readout up here and the idea of a greater theocratic Republic of Idaho that's continued to be promoted. And you're seeing the religious right stepping in and crowding out the corporate right in the Southeast. And there's an awful lot of people that are running scared. And honestly, the one thing that has done more for third parties this year than anything else is the leak of the Judge Alito opinion piece. Okay, because now everybody's paying attention to the stuff that Alito's written. Okay, Alito, in defense of DOMA, wrote a dissenting opinion that essentially would have overturned Loving versus Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so we're looking at what Alito's saying, and when he's saying give it back to states' rights, there's an awful lot of people that assumed, you know, I love my interracial relationship. I love my wife. If Alito's allowed to keep doing what he's doing, it's going to go back to states. And do my representatives believe in my ability to have an interracial marriage?
Right.
Okay.
Well, people, that's what's really sad is people don't understand. Like, all you got to do is read a history book. Look at what happened during Civil War. Who was fighting for states' rights? The South was fighting for states' rights. So states' rights is not what we want.
Well, it's an interesting thing because states' rights, the North had the option. Now, the federal government at the time, you know, was actually siding with the South and saying, hey, if a slave escapes to the North, you got to send the slave back to the South.
True.
The Dred Scott decision, which was something else Alito cited in his opinion, you know, was no, this is a federal officer and Dred's his slave. So it doesn't matter. You know, when Dred goes, his slave goes with him because that's property and it's transferable from state to state. You know, Constitution. So again, it's one of those things. Do we really trust the federal government when it comes to human rights?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and right now, what
Obviously
we've heard Alito say, no, we can't.
Mm-hmm.
Which means if you can't trust your state legislatures to protect your right to an interracial relationship, your right to contraceptives, your right to medical health choices, the federal government isn't going to back you up.
Nope. Not at all.
Which means now people at the state level have to be active at the state level, because if they aren't, all those rights are gone.
Mm-hmm.
And you talk about November and third parties and their success. I think that's why you saw a lot of where the Democrats were trying to get third parties booted off of voter rolls in a lot of the states, because they knew what the trend was coming. Half the voting population doesn't want anything to do with either Republicans or Democrats.
No,
and that's a huge block of voters, right? So if you got these, if you've got the third parties or independents booted off the rolls, you know, you're having a monopoly on the process, and more and more people are starting to see that, I think. But as for November, though, the Democrats are just going to get crushed. And it's not because people are so enamored with Republicans. It's just like this ping pong effect. It's like, okay, now the Democrats get into power, they can't do anything. They're awful. Let's go to the Republicans. Okay, the Republicans get into the party. They're awful. They can't do anything. And it just goes back and forth and back and forth. Meanwhile, these third parties can't get in there when they want to do different things because of the monopoly, the duopoly that's keeping them apart. So I can talk about politics all day.
Right? You know, for days. You know, but they keep the back and forth going because it keeps, you know, the balance in control. And a lot of people look at it like the ratchet effect. You know, you move the lever and then you pull it back. The thing is, once you move the lever back to where it was, the rope still stays tight.
Yep.
Yeah.
Can't pull
You know,
forward.
so
No.
there's no effective change. There's no release of the liberties back to the people. There's no release
Right.
back of bodily autonomy. You know, that's one of the big issues right now. How much bodily autonomy can you actually express? Okay, the federal government decides whether or not a particular kind of contraceptive can even be used by your family. They've decided that one of the key pain management programs in the United States has no medical value. You know,
They tell us that you can't have a hysterectomy unless you've had at least 3 children or over the age of 25.
Right?
Yeah.
Your ability to determine whether or not you want to produce children, you know, is supported by policies. You go into a doctor, no hysterectomy. I even heard a funny TikTok the other day about somebody who's going, you know, I don't want to have kids, you know, so I'm going to go in and I'm going to get a vasectomy. And he goes in, and because he's single and he's never had kids, he has to go in for a psych evaluation. Okay, are you of sound mind to use your own judgment to never produce kids again?
Right.
Now, if he fails, here's a guy who may be crazy, it may be genetic, but now he has to go out and create kids because they won't let him get snipped.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the messed up part. It's like, if you're okay, you're not of sound mind, so go ahead and procreate. Go make more of yourself. You know, how ass backwards is that? You know, I don't know. It's
you know,
we're gonna just have to see how that works out.
And it's one of those things the Supreme Court has danced around, you know, for 100 years, the idea of bodily autonomy. Because the second they have to admit to bodily autonomy, the ability, you know, the entire history of slavery, the slave codes of Virginia in 1705, all of that history becomes null and void. Okay? You need to be a citizen in order for the state to represent your rights. And it's up to the state to decide whether or not you qualify as a citizen based on race, gender, identity, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
None of these things are protected anymore. It's all back to the state. Your state government can decide whether or not you're even a citizen, and they can come up with arbitrary decisions as to what that means, what that could be. And then here we are. Thank you, Alito.
Right. Yep. Yeah, I'll definitely close it out. It definitely feels like it's a possibility with the states' rights, and if this passes, that we could go back to, you know, like, I don't think it's going to be like a North versus South anymore, but it's going to be, you know, like states versus states. Definitely, you know, you're going to have, you know, half the states are going to be abortion friendly, and then the other states are not. And so people are going to start moving to those states, and then there's going to be a separation of people in those. It just feels like, you know, civil war all over again. Over abortion, over my right to have a child or not. You know, that's what's crazy. Like,
exactly.
It's my uterus. I mean, if you guys want it, you can absolutely have it. I was willing to give it away yesterday. So
I'm not in the market for a
out there
uterus.
who wants it, he can have it. He can have my babies for you. That's
yes.
I'm not in the market.
For me.
I was shopping a few weeks back, but now I don't have the budget for it. So anyway, I don't know how to segue into this from that to this, but we did have a little bit of some history yesterday with the government actually having hearings on UFOs. We got a little bit of video. Let's check that out a bit.
It was moments like these challenging the limits of physics that raised potential security risks that were too big to ignore.
My gosh. They're all going against the wind. It was 120 knots from the west.
The military releasing this 2015 video 2 years ago showing naval pilots off the coast of California completely stunned.
Look at that thing.
We were seeing them nearly every day that we were flying.
Today, for the first time since the 1960s, members of the House Intelligence Subcommittee and top Pentagon officials discussing the topic of UFOs, now referred to as UAPs or unidentified aerial phenomenon.
We are committed to a focused effort to determine their origins.
In 2004, the Pentagon acknowledged tracking more than 140 reports of UAPs. But today, Deputy Director for Naval Intelligence Scott Bray says efforts to encourage pilots to report mysterious encounters has swelled the number they're investigating to approximately 400. Last year, a government report found a definitive explanation for only one of the encounters. Bray says one video was a distortion stemming from light passing through night vision goggles. As for a second video showing a shiny spherical object,
I do not have an explanation for what this specific object is.
Bray confirmed that the military has never fired missiles at a UFO or recovered any non-terrestrial wreckage. Still, the Pentagon says it's determined to remove the stigma associated with reporting sightings.
The inability to understand objects in our sensitive operating areas is tantamount to an intelligence failure.
Unidentified aerial phenomena are a potential national security threat.
Now, Navy and Air Force crews have step-by-step procedures for reporting on UAPs right in their cockpit. Ike Ajachi, ABC News, Washington.
So yeah, that was interesting. It's the first time they've had a hearing since 1966 on this. So
you believe in aliens, Joe?
That one's a loaded question.
Hey.
Come on. This goes back to the question, we're just a small backwater country in a backwater galaxy in an absolutely huge universe. The idea that we are the only intelligent, cognitive life form, is the ultimate expression of hubris. So yes, I believe in aliens, and I believe that some of them have acquired enough technology in order to go transstellar, interstellar, be able to move. I'm even willing to go so far as we may even have transdimensional visitors that pop in from time to time.
I got a few in my neighborhood. I live in Brooklyn, so there's all kinds of we have all kinds of visitors around here. My question is, like, why now? Why after 60 years or almost 60 years, why have these hearings now? Are they actually curious about what these things are going on, or is this just a distraction from other things that are going on? I mean, what do y'all think?
Well, one of the things we had during the 1960s was big technology boom. We moved into processors. We moved from transistor tech into microchips, and we started building computers and mainframes along those lines. We were starting to look at different ways of expressing technology, including our agricultural processes. We moved from the old school that created and restored us from the Dust Bowl of the 1920s into the 1970s Green Revolution and petroleum-based agriculture that spurned on, population growth here in the United States. We saw a huge growth in technology back in the 60s during that time when those hearings were happening. Now here we are again. We're on the verge of another breakthrough, major technology, disruptive technologies all across the board. Certain people want to be in control of those disruptive technologies. And we're reaching a point where the disruptive technologies of the past 10, 15 years that have been steadily suppressed in order to keep profitability of older techs, older industries still manageable so that select people could control them. Here we are, we're on the verge. They cannot suppress some of these disruptive technologies anymore because people have found the way to introduce them. So here we are, we're looking at another way to bring in all of that disruptive technology in a controlled system. Says we got it from the aliens, rather than admitting that it was other humans that contributed to the creation. And it's just controlling the flow of technology again, in my opinion. That may not
I've never
necessarily
looked at it like that. That's interesting.
Yeah, well, that goes back to the fact I do not trust certain people in the United States or, our global managers of our economies.
Right. Well, no, because it absolutely seems plausible. I mean, if you look at it in that way, it totally makes sense. I mean, as soon as we had the last congressional meeting, we had a bump in technology, and it seems like we've been stagnant. Technology in social life has been expanding, but in governmental wise, it's very stagnant. So for them to catch up, let them have this hearing now, and then all of a sudden, all this new technology comes out and starts to catch up again. That absolutely makes sense, because we're coming out with, like you were saying, disruptive things like what is it, the sound weapon that they have where you can't even hear it, but
focused energy weapons.
yeah.
Mhm.
So
both
we
light,
know about
sound.
it, but the government hasn't completely admitted to it yet. So it seems to make sense if they have this meeting now, all of a sudden they come out with these new, DARPA weapons. So absolutely, totally is logical and plausible.
Yeah, and especially with the fact that we need to go through changes in the way we do our agricultural processes, because we're hitting the limit of what we can do with the green revolution right now and being able to supply and support the global economy, especially with the disruptions that are going on. You are seeing massive farmland purchases by wealthy people in the United States, American oligarchs, Ukrainian oligarchs. What we're seeing in going on with Russia and Ukraine right now happens to be over the control over a significant amount of agricultural land in Eastern Europe. Ukraine, prior to this, was a major agricultural supplier globally, not just Europe, but globally. We would buy organic wheat from the Ukraine. So they were exporting everywhere. So we are looking at complete changes in agricultural technology coming up as a result. Weapons technology, of course. We got to find some way to explain Russia and China's supersonic missile capabilities. Why not blame it on they got it from the aliens? Yeah. Now,
Sounds good to me.
it's as good a theory as any. But the thing is most of this technology, it was terrestrial in creation. Most of Edison's research, most of his development, the stuff he was famous for, was thought unheard of at the time. But it wasn't it was Tesla. Tesla was the one who created those technologies. And shared them out of the world. Here we are again. Disruptive
system.
Yeah. And people who, what's my latest word for them? The copyright pirates.
Ooh.
That's simply what Edison was. Edison was a vulture capitalist and a copyright pirate.
Yes. Okay. I agree.
He didn't actually do a lot of the creation on his own. In the same way, we run into the same problem with Elon Musk right now. The man doesn't actually have the ability to create anything he's invested in on his own. Yet his name is at the top. You talk about SpaceX, you hear Elon Musk. Elon Musk did not design rocket technology.
Nope.
Right.
Elon Musk did not create the lithium battery. Elon Musk did not create the electric car. Elon Musk did not create PayPal.
It's so true.
He invested in all of those. He found a copyright that would work, found the way to invest it, become the owner of the copyright, and then proceed to get money off of it. So we're looking at a replay of that scenario. People trying to get in, copyright pirates with venture capital to spend for the next wave of technology.
Damn. I just learned something today. Thank you. Holy shit. I didn't even realize that.
The more you know. That's what this show's about learning. Learning is earning. That's my copyright. So we can end it on this, because when Tesla died, a lot of his papers, all of his papers went missing, and God knows what happened so maybe that's some of the technology we're seeing up in the skies, or maybe it could be somebody from out yonder, who knows. I want to. This was great. We're glad you dropped in, Joe. This was good. Thank you for your election knowledge and chiming in on the UFO story too. We had a couple more stories, but we just had too good. We had too good a time talking about this other stuff. So hopefully everybody else enjoyed it. Sakuro, thanks for coming out. Robert, Kay, and Jeffrey, and Lana. and we had Amberly here earlier. Dolores, thank you for sharing everything out. You're amazing. Appreciate you. I think we've covered the gamut here. Joe, what you got going on? Where can people find you and all that good stuff?
Oh, they can actually find me on Kerberos. I got a show that I'll be doing this evening at 6 p.m. Mountain. That's going to be 8 Eastern time. And I still need to nail down my topics, but of course, one of them is going to be something we've already discussed here. You know, the primaries that happened today and objects of Christian nationalism, as well as, you know, what's continuing to go on with formula shortages, you know, supply chain, well, just supply chain in general, especially with regards to agricultural issues that are coming up. But yeah, so Cup of Joe with Joe every Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern. I'm here.
Right on. Right on.
Yep. One of my favorites.
Miss Jimi,
on here.
Miss
Yes,
Jimi, you know I'm gonna ask you.
Yes, of course, of course. Well, I don't have to say Cup of Joe because Joe's already here, which is awesome. So, but Cup of Joe tonight, we've got in-depth show tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern with Joe Firestone. Tomorrow night at 9, we've got wait, is it Dump the Incumbents tomorrow? I'm not sure if it's Dump the Incumbents or in-depth, but Joe Firestone will be on tomorrow night as well. And then the news tomorrow with Joe Firestone, and then Friday we usually do a mixed bag with the news show, so it could be anybody. It's a surprise, and that's it.
Right on.
And then
Kitty! Yeah,
I
always got to shout out the kitties.
Burst. It looks like she ate a balloon.
All right, she ate a balloon full of kittens.
Yeah,
I know that sounds weird. That sounds like some sort of like you know, some sort of like drug thing. Anyway, I'm not going to go there. So I'm a visitor to Kerberos. I lend my talents here with Jimi on Wednesdays, and I have my own show on the Independent News Network. That's usually on Thursday nights. Not sure who I'm going to have on tomorrow night. That's more of a TBD, as we say in the TV biz, to be determined. So that's my at Twitter. Everything else is War Deer Entertainment or Extra Bulla. And basically, I have the linktree /Extra Bulla. You can find all my platforms, donation links, and all that good stuff. And I might be doing another secret show. It usually airs around midnight, that kind of thing. I'm not sure if I'm going to do that tonight or not. I got up at 6 a.m. today. I couldn't go back to sleep for some reason. Guilty conscience, maybe. So I may not do a midnight show tonight, but we'll see. That's kind of like we don't know till the last second thing, but appreciate all of y'all. Joe, thanks again for popping in. We appreciate you. Good luck with the show tonight.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Yeah, like I said, you brought the party, and it was a party good time. So I enjoyed it myself. Thanks everybody in the chat. We're gonna get out of here. Have a good one. Be good to each other, and we'll see you next time. Peace.
Peace.